So we have the user's password and username, and now we need to search for the client with those same credentials. And so if we look over here, you could see the object structure, right? We have a corporate object, and he has for his instance variable an array list of branch banking objects, and then each branch banking object has an array list of clients. So we need to go ahead and search through all of these clients, looking for one whose username and password instance variable is equal to the one that the user entered in on the keyboard, right? So how do we do that? Well, we need to have a for loop that's going to run through each of these branch banking objects, and then for each branch banking object we need to have another for loop that's going to run through each of the clients, right? So we're going to have a nested for loop structure here to search through the clients in the corporate object. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Maybe I can copy this for each loop syntax, and then I come over here and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. So this is going to be a branch banking type, and then here I'm going to just call it B, and over here I could say corp.b, right? Because here's my corporate class, and you could see here I have an instance variable that is an array list called B, right? Just a couple things to note is that this class here should have capital B, right? All classes start with a capital, but I don't want to go ahead and go back and make all changes, so I'm going to keep it that way. But you should have a capital B here if you're using the same naming convention. And then this here is a bad name, right? We want it to be descriptive, so we would want to call it like bank or banks or bank list, right? But I'm just going to keep everything the same here. And yeah, so the reason why this is not good, well, the reason why this wouldn't work, well, it would work if this here was declared public, right? So if you don't put the public or private keyword, then it's automatically defined as public, right? And so yeah, I mean, we know that we want to keep everything private so that we can keep control over the data in our system, right? So but if we make that private, then we can't do this. So what are we going to do? How do we access this array list? Well, this array list is simply an instance variable, just like all the other instance variables we've made in the past, right? Like for song, we had the name of the song. What did we do in that case? We made a getter, right? So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to make a getter for the B array list. And so here we're going to say public array list. Yeah, let me see, is that syntax correct? Let's see, a method that returns an array list, Java. Okay, so we can use this here. Please forgive my foggy memory on how the syntax works. So we'll do that. Array list of type branch banking. And so this is what this method is going to return, and I want to call it get bank list. Right. Okay, well, great. And what is this going to do? Well, all it's going to do is return B. So I'll save that, and that's what I'm going to use right here, right? So I can get the instance variable, the array list. So I'll say corp.getB, or bank list. Don't forget the 2 parentheses. And now we are ready to go. So this for each loop is going to scroll through each branch banking object in the array list, the corp's array list, right? So now we need to have another for each loop, right? So we're going to have another for each loop, and this one is going to go through clients, right? Let's check the naming convention here. Yep, client C is going to equal corp.getBankList. This is going to give you an array list of type B. Okay, this is going to give you B. And then we need to scroll through each of its objects. Ooh, let's see, how can we do this? Okay, so yeah, I think what we're gonna do here is create a regular for loop. I won't say int I is equal to 0, I is less than this corp.banklist.size, which should be 4, and then we'll do I++. And then we'll just go ahead and copy that again, and we'll put it right over here. Except for the nested for loop, we're going to use the J as the iterator. And so here we're going to get this bank list, and that's an array. And I'm going to do dot get I, which is going to be 0 on the first iteration, 1 on the second iteration, 2 on the third, and 3 on the fourth, right? So what this long expression is getting is the first bank object in the corp's array list of banks, array list of branch banking objects. So this is going to be the first one, right? But this inner for loop, we don't want it to scroll through the bank objects. We want it to scroll through the array list, the client array list in the banking objects. So we're going to say dot get client list, right? Because of course we're going to define our client list array list as private, just like we defined our bank list out here as private, right? So let's come back over here. We'll go to branch banking. We're going to set these as private, of course, here and here. And then we do need to create a toString. So public string dot toString. And this is going to do the same thing. It's just going to return C, which is a bad name, right? Want to call it client list probably. So this is going to get my client list, and now that I have the array, I can do dot get J, right? So this inner for loop is going to scroll through the client list, right? So I can maybe add that as notes, right? Scrolls through the client list, array list. And this one out here scrolls through the list of branch banking objects. Okay, yeah, so there we go. And now that we have the nested for loop set up, well, it's pretty straightforward on how to get the object. We'll have an if statement checking the client's username and password, right? And checking if it's equal to the username and password that the client entered in when they first signed in, right? And if it is, then what do you want to do? You want to get that object and save him. Okay, why do we want to save him? Because right after this, we're going to need to print out a menu and allow the user to run different operations on that object. So how are we going to save him? We'll say client C, right? We don't need to say equal new client, right? So we don't need to put a client into this variable. We're just going to make a variable that can hold client objects, and we're going to say C is equal to that object, right? That was found. So now that we have this C variable, right? Well, over here we can run different methods on it, like dot deposit, right? Some certain amount that the user wants to enter in, or we can do view personal account. Oh my goodness. Right, something like that. So yeah, that's about it.